Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Aegina Craft. In this video, I want to talk to you about 5 main problems which you will encounter when you're doing your epoxy resin art. And when you start out as a beginner, I have been doing epoxy resin for the last year or so. I've been pouring every single day for the last year. I've been doing art every single day since last year. I'm part of the social groups and the Facebook groups and the forums and all that jazz. And I found that often the beginners and the just starters ask the same questions and encounter the same problems. So I decided to spend a few days just making notes of these issues, making notes of these problems they encounter, and I have a bunch. Like I collected about 20 or 30 different kind of issues. Now I collected 5 in this video because I want to get in detail and talk about the problem, the symptoms, and the solutions for each. Okay, this is going to be another little talking head video. I try to be fast and efficient on this, but if it's gonna take as long as it takes. You know what I mean? If you like my stuff and if you like to support me, you can do it by buymeacoffee.com. You can buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com, or you can purchase some art from my web shop. That's how you can support this channel, and that's how you can support me to stay independent and not take on any slimy sponsorships and ads and all that shit. Now, let's get down to business. So the first thing I encountered is epoxy. I made notes because, you know me, I have ADHD and I tend to I tend to go on tangents. So epoxy resin does not harden after weeks. It's still sticky or soft and rubbery. It happens way too often. It happens to me too. The problem, the cause of this problem is bad mixing ratio, either weight or volume, depending on what your product needs. You know, because you have to mix mine per weight, so 200 grams to 100 grams. But some people's epoxy is by volume, so half a liter to 250 milliliter, or whatever. What's on the label? If you mess up the ratio, it's not gonna cure properly. Also, it could be that it wasn't mixed long enough. So basically how you mix epoxy, there's part A molecules and part B molecules. And what you do when you pour it in a pot and you start mixing it, you don't make a part C molecule out of part A and B. You just mix it so part A and part B gets very close to each other, and every part A has a part B next to it, right? And after some time, they connect to each other. Thus, resin cures. Okay, so you don't make a mix C or chemical C when you mix it. So that's why you need to mix it very well so that enough part A gets very close to part B's. That's basically how it works. And if you don't mix it long enough, there isn't going to be a part B next to the part A, and they can't get close to each other, so they can't bond. Now, one more thing that can mess up the curing, that the ambient temperature is very, very cold. We talk about like 10, 12 degrees Celsius, like winter days outside, you know. So that could be a cause. Listen, I need to turn the fan because I'm sweating my balls off. Because I have the door closed and I just can't exist like this. Does it shake the camera? No, it doesn't. Okay, good. Okay, so also, if the resin doesn't cure, it can be because you put too much foreign particles in it. So you have part A and you have part B, and when you mix it, the goal is to have part A and part B very, very close to each other. But what happens if you pour a half a kilo of paint in it? Well, you're going to have part A and part B so far from each other that in between you're going to have the color pigmentation, the alcohol, the water, the acrylic paint, your toenail, whatever, you know, whatever you put in your resin. If it's going to block the molecules between part and part B, it won't cure properly. Okay, so Coloration in moderation. That's all. That's what I always say. I just said it the first time, so I don't say it always. Why am I saying that? Anyway, second, the part A of the epoxy is cloudy, milky, lumpy, or solid. It happens way too often. Now, it happens to me with part B, but it usually happens with part A, so the meat of the resin. The cause of the problem is the resin is crystallized because of fluctuating temperature. So it gets too cold, then it warms up, then it gets too cold, then it warms up. It happens on the climates where the nights are cold and the days are hot, and you don't have heating or you don't have a stable temperature in your storage area. Now, how to fix this? Very fucking simple. You do what you do with crystallized honey. You get a pot of water, I don't know, 50 Celsius, 60, 70, and you put your resin, the crystallized resin, in there, like so. And then you just wait for it to decrystallize, liquefy. English is not my first language, so yeah, bear with me here. Sorry, I have to take a sip of water. Not sponsored by the water company, because you support me on buymeacoffee.com. This is some good water. Now, this is how it would look like if I would have taken hidden sponsorships. Sorry. So yeah, that's how you liquefy it. And after that, I would change the storage area. So I would keep it in a dark, cool place, but stable temperature place. Honestly, I keep my resin in a 45 Celsius storage place, but it's always 45 Celsius there. Not 40, 30. I'm sorry. It's about 100 Fahrenheit. Okay, so, but it's constantly like that. Resin has no problem. So avoid the fluctuation of temperature. Right, number 3. I should have these numbers floating around. Nah, I'm not gonna do it. I know how to do it, I'm just lazy. And this is uncut, so fuck it. Epoxy resin becomes cloudy or milky after curing, cracks, and fogs. Now, by cracking, I don't mean massive gashes and valleys in it. I mean hairlines. It could be caused by two things. The humidity in the air is too high, so when I have a piece here, but I don't know if you can see it. Probably not focusing well enough. So I have a white cloud under the pistachios, which looks fucking great because it looks like it floats on fog. It's like smoky, mysterious. Actually looks great. Now, why this happens? It either happens because the air humidity is above 70%, or the resin got water in it, like water. Now, I had huge humidity when I poured this. Like, I actually had rain outside on a 35 Celsius pavement, and it's just steamed up. And this is what happened. Not much you can do about this, to be honest. You can prevent it, like keep a dehumidifier in your workshop or in your workplace, or just try to avoid pouring it when it's humid out there. Calimera. Hola.
Una vengo con lui veramente studiando come si però sono di freddo a un po'.
I'm sorry, but I don't speak Greek. Signori.
Bye.
Yes. So, sorry for that. This is what happens when you're shooting in shop. Somebody wanted to sell me some calendars or some shit. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, humidity. So you can decrease the humidity or just don't pour. We have a viewer from the swamps of the United States, Anubis. he just told me on Sunday that he is basically having 100% humidity all the way. Sound down in the comments, mate. Tell them how it is. So try to avoid pouring in humid temperature. If you already poured and if it's cloudy, you can either sand it out, drill it out, or if it's like a huge area, scut it out and re-pour it, basically. That's what you can do with that. You have to redo the pour. Now, air bubbles in resin. Oh my god, like I see this all the fucking time. How you get rid of bubbles? What should I do with bubbles? This bubbles, that bubbles. And they show you a picture, and it's not because they mixed it wrong. It's because of the reaction. Now, let me tell you a little about air bubbles. Not every air bubble is caused by the same issue in your resin pour, okay? So many of the artists get discouraged because they think they done the mixed pour and they fucked up and they let the bubbles in and so on and so forth. And sometimes they post that, oh my god, when I poured it, it had no bubbles in it, and now it has bubbles in it. Listen, it's not your fault, okay? It's the environment's fault. That's what I always say. I'm a narcissistic fuck regarding air bubbles in resin. Anyway, so what I wrote here is air bubbles in resin is caused by high mixing speed. So you mix it too fast. Therefore, you got a bunch of bubbles in it. Too low temperature. So if the temperature is too low, your premix is thicker than it's supposed to be, so bubbles can't escape. Excess gas level. What I mean by this is your part B can react to the resin in the wood or can react to the thing you are putting inside of the resin. And if it has some artificial resin in it or natural resins, for example, tree sap or something like that, it can react to it and it can create gas. Now, off-gassing will happen when you are heating up the material you put in the resin. Therefore, it can create a chain reaction of off-gassing, and then it creates heat, and then it flash cures in that area, and the bubbles can't escape anymore. So when you see, like, there is an example of this when you see tiny bubbles next to the wood piece you put in resin, and it's not in one place, it's all over it. Even if you look at it from the sideways on the top, it doesn't look like it comes out of the wood, it just happens around the wood, right? That is the resin or the tree sap reacting to the hardener in the epoxy mix. That's a chemical chain reaction going critical. You can't do anything with that. The only thing you can do with it is prime the wood. What I mean by priming, use the same epoxy resin you used for the pour, brush it on the wood, brush it on the piece, or dip it in, right? Let it cure completely, let it harden, okay? And then do the pour. So create a barrier layer between the wood. Sand it up a little bit before the pour. That's a good thing to do for it to grab. But anyway, prime, always prime. If you are uncertain about your wood, prime it. Do the hawk tool with the resin on your wood. All right. So I say use the vacuum chamber here if you want to remove bubbles, but I realized that vacuum chambers only work if you are working in like volume, okay, like gallons. If you're doing small, like half a cup, don't fuck with that. Stir slower if you can. Reduce the casting height. So what I mean by that is do several smaller pours, because if you have like this amount of resin, the bubble have to go through. It's better than having this amount of resin, so the you know, like, you know what I mean. Anyway, casting tape, reuse. Try to do several different pours. Dehydrated. I'm slurring my words again. Mother of God. Okay, now, what else? Yep. I told you about that. Good. Reduce casting height. One more thing, to remove bubbles, if you don't want to use a heat gun or a blowtorch to pop the bubbles, you can use pure alcohol. Just a few spritzes. If you powderize it enough, removes the bubbles. Sometimes when I have way too much bubbles, I pour it out in a tray so that it's flat on a flatter surface. Then I remove the bubbles and I re-pour it into the pourer cup, you know, and then I pour it from there to the thing I'm doing. So I'm increasing the surface, remove the bubbles, then decrease the surface, put it back to the container, and then pour. That is also a solution, you know. And last but not least, resin vaporizes, which means that it shrinks, hardens yellow, and strong cracks. This is called flash curing, okay? Kind of. The point is, you have exceeded your pouring height, so the curing chain reaction created so much heat that it went critical. When a chain reaction goes critical, it means it went to a point where there is no return. You can't cool it back. You can't turn it back. Okay? If it goes critical, the only way for it is just to get more heat and cure faster. Now, you poured too much. That's the only cause of this. You pour too thick. What to do in this situation is the hardest thing to do. You have to carve out or cut out the poured bits, and you have to re-pour again. Now, one Hail Mary you can do is when you cut out the piece or the badly poured resin, you can chop it up and use it in the next pour as filler. In some cases you can do this. If it's a clear pour, probably not, but if you have like a mica pour, you might be able to get away with it. I have a bunch more of these, okay? A bunch more of these problem solutions, issues people found, and I can make another video of this if you want to. If you have any problems you encountered, and if you have any other solutions or problem solutions you fixed, please sound it off in the comments, because that will help this video to grab some attention. You know, I need to rebuild this channel from zero, basically, due to me being demonetized a couple of months ago. So if you would be so kind to like this video, leave a comment, that would help me greatly with the algorithm. And as I said in the beginning, if you want to support me and if you want to help me stay independent, you can do it on buymeacoffee.com. You can subscribe monthly for $5, or you can just throw some change at me, or you can buy a piece of art from me, which is a personalized painting, where you can decide what colors of planet you would like, and I leave you a message on the back of the picture, or whatever, you know. But yeah, these are the ways you can support me. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you got something out of this video, and let me know if you want a second episode of this. All right? I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.